we move on to the next episode of the Moving Forward series is Orlando City. And they, of course, was eliminated from the playoffs last week. And I was actually going to be wearing an Orlando City jersey when I'm doing this Moving Forward series episode for them. But unfortunately, since I wore it a couple of days ago, and now I have basically put in the washing machine to wash, and that it's basically now drying right now, I unfortunately don't have the jersey available right now. But in terms of Orlando City, they finished the season, well, currently their record this season is 9-10-14 heading into decision day, and they currently have 37 points so far this season. They have scored 42 goals this season, gave up 47 this season, and their goal differential is -5. In terms of the top goal scored for their team, Nani currently leads the list with 12 goals. Then you got Teshin Akindele with 9, Dom Dwyer with 7, Chris Mueller with 5, and Benji Michel rounds off that list with 4 goals. Top assist leader, once again, Nani with 10 assists to leads the team. Then you got Juan with 5 assists, Chris Mueller with 4, Dom Dwyer with 4, and João Matinho rounds out that list with 3 assists. So, what went right for Orlando City this season? Well, their off-season signing for once actually made a big impact. And that, throughout this off-season, they got guys like Nani, Juan, Teshin Akindele, and all these guys that they hope that can not only either improve their defense, but also improve their attack. And certainly, when you look at the goals that they have conceded this season, and this also brings me up to the next point that I'm going to be talking about. Their defense have looked much better. I mean, most of the signings that they have done this offseason to address that defensive issue after giving up what used to be the most goal ever conceded by an MLS team until FC Cincinnati basically broke that mark last week. They need to fix their defense, and they knew that they had to make some signings to fix it, which they did. They addressed that issue, and this season they have definitely haven't give up as much goals as they have done last season. I mean, the defense is still, I wouldn't say considered one of the best in the league, but it's definitely right there around the average kind of mark and right near the middle of the pack in terms of the best defensive team in the league. And, for Orlando City, when you were a team that was the worst defensive team just a year ago, and that in a span of a year, you're able to now be right in the middle of the pack in terms of all the teams of the goals that they have conceded. That must feel really good, considering that is a massive improvement in terms of their defense. And also, the other thing that went right for them is that at least they did not collapse in the middle part of the season, and that this team really kind of fought tooth and nail down the stretch, and that they were kind of in a good position in terms of making the playoffs, but then, that's when the collapse kind of happened. And that I think maybe is something that I will also want to talk about when I talk about what went wrong in this game, is that they still have not shown that in the pivotal moment where playoffs is on the line, and that this could be a chance for the first time in their franchise history to reach the postseason with a crucial game that they need to win to improve their chances to do so, and they weren't able to capitalize that. But speaking of what went wrong for them, besides the fact that they still haven't shown that mentality where they can come off with a clutch win to potentially get one step closer in terms of making the playoffs. The one thing that kind of hurt their playoff chances is lack of consistency and unpredictability in this team. And you've been hearing me say it many times this season with this team. I just don't know what kind of Orlando City team would be like in this game against an MLS opponent. Like, there's times where Orlando City generally is considered they're one of the best team in the league with some of the performance that they play, and that there's times where they look like one of the worst team in the league. I mean, it's just so unpredictable what kind of team you get. You can get a good Orlando City team or a bad Orlando City team, and that has to be very frustrating if you're an Orlando City fan, knowing the fact that, you're coming into the game, you're hoping you can get a win, but you're also hoping that that good Orlando City side will show up, and it's not the bad Orlando City side. And you don't know which one is going to show up because of the fact that it's so unpredictable of what kind of performance they're going to put. And also, as I mentioned, with the lack of consistency, yeah, they doesn't seem like throughout this season really build up a run where they go on like a couple of games unbeaten or go on a winning streak so that they can of course improve their chances of making the playoffs. So that's another thing that kind of hurt Orlando City chances of making the playoffs. The other thing that kind of hurt their chances of making the playoffs is finishing, and this kind of goes back to where the unpredictability in terms of sometimes the shots that they take. And I kid you not, this team for part of this season, and especially I think for probably the first 2/3 part of the season, whenever this team takes tons of shots, they basically just shoot everywhere and have like 20 plus shots in a game. They don't score a goal. But when they have like 7 or 8 shots in a total game, they're able to score 2 or 3 goals. So I honestly don't know why in the world this team tends to look good in terms of finishing their chances when they don't shoot everywhere, and that when they do shoot from everywhere, they are not clinical whatsoever. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense, but then again, it goes back to the unpredictability and the lack of consistency in terms of that finishing. I mean, when you look at the goals that they have scored this season, which is only 42 goals, that's definitely pretty low considering for a team that is battling for playoff position, and that when you look at this team that has some attacking weapons, you would think that they would score more goals than that, which they could have if they would have improved their chances in terms of finishing, and that the chances in terms of their finishing and the problems that they have in terms of putting those ball into the back of the net is one of the big reason why there's a couple, like I know a couple of games this season where they had this issue, and that if they can at least fix that issue and at least able to show those clinical finishing in a couple of those games, this team would not be in a position in terms of fighting for playoffs in the last couple of weeks, and that there's just so many points that Orlando City dropped this season, mainly because they just couldn't put the ball into the back of the net, despite the fact that they create like a billion shots in front of goal. And then the final thing that went wrong for them this season is that they have a bad home record. I mean, anytime when you are a team that only have won 6 out of the 17 games that you have, and I believe their home record is 6 wins, 3 draws, and 7 losses, yeah, that is not going to cut it in terms of a team making the playoffs. I mean, unless you're a team that do well on the road, which Orlando City this season on the road, they've only won 3 times this season, you are guaranteed not making the playoffs if you're going to get that few wins on the road and also get that few wins at home too. So they got to fix that home record next season. Orlando City, I mean, for the last couple of years, for whatever reason, they just doesn't seem like they have a very good home record whatsoever. Although the last 2 seasons, as I mentioned, with what went right for this season, at least they didn't collapse in the middle part of the season. For the last 2 seasons, that is one of the reasons why they had a bad home record, because some of those home games that they had were part of the stretch where they just go in a horrible stretch, and that they just completely go in a death spiral, and they weren't able to win games at home. So that's also one of the reasons why they just generally don't have a really good record ever since they opened their new stadium. Now, moving forward for this team, obviously, is there going to be more spending in the offseason? Because this team has spent a lot for the past couple of years. Like last year, they were very active in terms of the transfer window, bringing a couple of reinforcement in terms of defense, and also getting that big name player in Nani to help them in terms of the creativity department and also the goal scoring department. Is there going to be more kind of that spending in the offseason? I mean, I think they probably need to maybe get another strikers that can definitely show that clinical finishing. I mean, I know Dom Dwyer this season, he still is able to put up goals, but you have seen this season where there's times that Dom Dwyer just doesn't have it whatsoever. And, while Teshanet Kadeli has been having a career year this season, you don't know exactly if he's going to replicate that next season. And then Nani, obviously, he's going to get a year older. You don't know how much left in the tank that he has. I think they need to think about getting a attacker that is much more younger and much more kind of prolific in front of goal, and that is probably one of the things that they are going to target in the offseason. Exciting young talent is definitely in this team, and that I think if there's one thing that Orlando City fans should be excited is that, you know, some of their young talent, they can really be the backbone of this team. I mean, you know, you talk about some of the guys like Mendes in the midfield, Matinho at the back, and also Benji Michel, who literally just came up to this team in the middle of the season, and he's been lights out in terms of going for on the attack. Like, if this guy actually play for the full season, you could say that this guy could really be in contention for Rookie of the Year. Like, this guy basically just came out of nowhere, and then once he came up, I believe he even scored on his debut, and then continued to contribute and scoring goals in big moment in some of the games for Orlando City. This is a guy that I think people should definitely watch out for, and that, you know, maybe this could be, Benji Michel might be the guy that could be their main goal scorer. Now, I don't want to say that he's going to be the main goal scorer yet, because he's still very young, and, you know, next season is going to be the first full season that he has under his belt. And, you know, we've seen before where when you have a player that tends to have an amazing half season, once they have that full season under the belt, you know, it's going to be tough to try to replicate that half season kind of success and try to do it throughout the full season. And maybe this half season where Benji Michel has been kind of in a really good form is just him having a very good form, and that he hasn't really experienced in terms of times where he's going to hit through some dry spell in a season, and that, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to recover. I think that's something that he's going to experience heading into next season, and we will see whether or not if he can keep up this kind of numbers that he has been putting with this Orlando City team for the past couple of months. But yeah, you know, there's definitely some exciting young talent where, you know, Orlando City, even though they're not going to spend a lot of money on new players, at least they think that they are going to try to rely some of their young players to trying to get this team to the postseason next season, which that brings me to the final point of the moving forward series, is that can James O'Connor get this team to the playoffs next season? I mean, it's been a question that every Orlando City fans has been asking about this team ever since they come into the league, and it's unfortunate the fact that this team still have not yet tasted any kind of glory of the postseason, and still have not officially had a single game in the postseason. I mean, this year, I think just like their expansion year, they came very, very close. But, you know, next season, you would think that maybe, with the way that how I think last season went, this season, I'm pretty sure Orlando City fans are going to say, well, you know, we didn't make the playoffs, but we knew that this season wasn't going to be the year to make the playoffs for us, because we're still kind of just rebuilding and trying to get things going. And now maybe next season is going to be the year. And, you know, if next season, if they don't make the playoffs again, do you think Orlando City might think about a coaching change too? I mean, you know, James O'Connor, he has definitely learned his mistake of what happened when he was coaching this team in the first year when he took control in the middle part of 2018. But now, with him having a full season, and that he certainly learns from his mistake and some of the things that did not improve this Orlando City team, can he continue to improve and make this team a playoff contention team heading into the next season? But either way, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this moving forward series? Orlando City fans, if you're watching this, what do you think? What went right for you? What went wrong? And most importantly, what do you think moving forward your team is gonna look like? But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I, of course, will see you guys next time. I'll see you guys tomorrow when I will be doing the Houston Dynamo in terms of their moving forward series episode.